Big Mom. We're going to see her again in the next chapter. In the latest manga chapter, it was shown that Queen Estrid threw her newborn son Loki down into the underworld. As mentioned in our spoiler video, this was similar to the story of Hera and Hephaestus, where Hera threw him down from Olympus into the ocean, based on Greek mythology. Now that we've seen what young Loki looks like, we can also compare his story to that of Lucifer, who was cast out from heaven and fell to earth, and later tried to climb back by ascending a mountain, which is similar to what we saw with young Loki trying to climb the tree of Adam. Their stories do share some similarities, and that's just one of the things we'll discuss in this video. Yes, this is our analysis for the latest manga chapter, chapter 1153. And to start, let's begin with a flashback involving King Harold. It turns out that Brogy and Dory were childhood friends of King Harold. Based on his description, he's similar to Loki, both big and strong, and King Harold was also described as arrogant and rude. Later on, we saw him belittling people because of their physical weakness, unlike the giants of Elbaf, who were naturally very strong, until he met Ida. When Ida learned about King Harold's ideology, where he viewed normal people as toys, she immediately pointed out that this way of thinking was wrong. She told him that just because they were born giants with great size and strength, that doesn't mean they should act superior to smaller beings. About Ida, many say she looks less attractive compared to Queen Estrid, and I agree with that. But did it ever cross your mind that maybe these traits were passed on to Loki from his father, King Harold? Because if we look at the flashback, yes, Queen Estrid was beautiful, but her personality was ugly. She was selfish, especially because she threw Loki away like trash just because he didn't meet her expectations of beauty. On the other hand, Ida, who many consider unattractive, had the opposite kind of personality. She was kind. She even showed she didn't care that Harold was the king of Elbaf. What mattered to her was that Harold would not treat normal people like toys. And that's when King Harold fell in love with Ida because of her good heart. I said Loki may have inherited this trait because at some point it was said that Loki fell in love with Charlotte Lola. And just like Ida, Lola wasn't physically attractive either. But she had a wonderful personality. We saw in the Thriller Bark arc how kind-hearted Lola was, right? One panel that really stood out in King Harold's journey was when he danced in a way that resembled sun god Nika. If we analyze King Harold's character, he shows traits similar to those who bear the will of D. Or possibly, maybe he does have the initial D in his name, just like other good characters with D in their names, like Nefertari Lily, Monkey D. Dragon, Gold D. Roger, and Professor Clover. Harold also had the intention of uniting all races in the world. Isn't it possible that this name, Harold, is just like how everyone mistakenly called Roger Gold Roger, when in fact, his name was really Gold D. Roger? Could it be that King Harold also has a D in his name? If this turns out to be true, then it's not impossible that his children also inherited the will of D, because according to Rode in chapter 1137, Harjudin's ultimate goal is to reunite all the giant tribes in the world and become king of the giants, which is very similar to Luffy's dream. As for Loki, who idolizes Rock's D, Xebec, he also shows traits of having the will of D, but with opposing motives. Overall, in the journey shown of King Harold, it's safe to say he was the one who changed or revolutionized Elbaf. He changed the culture and the worldview of the giants. The mindset of earlier Elbaf giants was purely about fighting and conquering other nations because they embodied the warrior spirit. They constantly wanted to prove their bravery through combat. But because of King Harold, and with Ida's help, he realized that violence is not the only way to connect with other places. You can also do it through kindness. We saw how Harold became friends with neighboring nations through trade. It was a give-and-take setup. He gave something from Elbaf in exchange for learning about the cultures of the places he visited. And this likely led him to realize the value of education. That's why later on, we saw him build the Walrus School and the Old Library. From what we've seen and heard from the people he met in every country he visited, they all had the same image of giants, that giants are violent. So King Harold changed that. He showed the world that giants are capable of more than just fighting and violence. They're not truly evil. They can also adapt and befriend normal people. Anyway, based on the trajectory of this chapter, it's most likely that the next chapter will continue this flashback about Loki and King Harold. We ended at the timeline 63 years ago, which is the year Loki was born. But did you know there was another major event that happened that year in Elbaf? Yes, guys, 63 years ago was also the time Big Mom arrived in Elbaf. And just like in this timeline, that's also when Big Mom killed Jorul. This is what I'm really excited to see in the next chapter. I'm excited to find out King Harold's point of view toward Big Mom. What actions did he take at that time? Will we also get to see Mother Carmel in the next chapter? So that's our short analysis video for the latest manga chapter, chapter 1153. And I hope you enjoyed it.